is your favorite room in the house and why?
The parlor, because it starts the family off of who they were, where they came from. It starts to mention the children, the daughters of Amzi Love, and especially the youngest daughter, who was the only one to have children. And also, it sets up the story of the guardian's bond that's behind us. These girls lose their mother, Edith Wallace Love, in 1872, Major Amzi Love in 1874. They left her to fend for themselves. What was happening in the time in 1874, there were still federal troops in the South and in Columbus. They don't leave the South till 1877. Federal administrators, and I do believe we still have them today, and carpetbaggers. You know what carpetbaggers were?
Mm-hmm. But you can tell why.
There were the men that came down from the South to plunder the South. They called them carpetbaggers because their suitcases were made out of carpet. Leather was virtually non-existent from the Civil War, and so you'd see them at the train stations on the way coming down like Uriah Heep to plunder the South and take advantage of us Southern folks. So they called them carpetbaggers. And they told these girls, the youngest one, of course, was my great-grandmother, who doesn't graduate from the Columbus Female Institute until 1879. So she was very young. And the oldest child, Alice Edith, was about 19. So somewhere in that, these 5 girls and 1 boy, the carpetbaggers and people said, you cannot stay here unless you put up a $5,000 bond to show the wherewithal that you have, you can take care of the house. They were really trying to squeeze them out of the house. So they all band together, they make the lace, they make the bedspread, they make the netting, knitting, crocheting, needlepoint, tatting. They give musical instruments. They take the musical instruments and give music lessons. They had all graduated from the Columbus Female Institute, which was kind of a 4-year industrial arts degree, according to Sam Coy, the historical architect that passed away a few months ago. And of course, we know that the Columbus Female Institute became the first state-supported university for women in America. And so I love this room because it sets up the story. But I also love the small bedroom, because when you go in there, you see the needlework, their handiwork, the netting, the knitting, the crocheting, all the things that these girls could do. The only thing that I would like to have had in that room would be the musical instruments and the piano where they could play, teaching other children how to play. They raised their money from running a school. They took in orphans. In fact, they placed one of the first orphans in the Palmer home.
Wow.
In fact, the old picture of the Palmer home that's hanging in the lobby came from the old family scrapbook right here in the very beginning of it. And I have the scrapbook turned in this particular room to what the girls were doing in the 1890s, giving music lessons, reading lessons. You can see them over there. And they did the things that they had to do to pay off the guardian's bond. So I guess this room and then the back little small bedroom. But all the rooms are particularly fine because they all have meaning to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the first male of the family to occupy the house in over 100 years or so. It's always been occupied by girl members. As you can see, nothing's ever changed. And I've enjoyed it very much.
Do you have a particular heirloom or piece of furniture that really stands out as your favorite, or multiples?
Well, I love the pictures of Major Amzi Love, whose picture is in the dining room, and I love my great-great-grandmother behind us. But I guess some of the unique pictures, the one piece of furniture that stands out in my mind is a convertible desk in the front bedroom, and it was made by a man and patented by the man in New York City called Stephen Hedges, and he got his patent for that desk for the hinge method on opening the table, flipping it over, and making a desk, therefore convertible. It converts into a desk, and then it converts back into a table. And that's quite an unusual piece.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very awesome. Miss Brenda actually told me that was her favorite piece too. So
It is, and of course, I admire all these women. I admire Amzi's brother, Dr. Thomas Neely Love, whose picture is also here in the parlor. You can see his stethoscope around his neck. He was a surgeon with one of the 2 full regiments that went down to the Mexican War and to Tampico, Mexico. That was a very unpopular war, whether you know it or not, and there wasn't and has not been a lot written on the Mexican War, but Dr. Love kept a journal, and it became a book, and it's sitting over there called A Southern Lacrimosa, the Mexican War Journal of Dr. Thomas Neely Love, surgeon, and it talks about the hardships on the way to fight the Mexicans. Quite unusual. And by the way, he got his medical degree from South Carolina Medical College in hereditary transmissions. You are who your parents marry.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing y'all talk about the house because you can tell like the sparkle in the eye and the way that you talk about it, that you really do enjoy the history and the family behind it.
Well, it's always been fun. It's been great. And I've enjoyed living here. I moved here from Denver in 1981 to kind of help my mother with the house. And I enjoyed living in the deep South. Of course, Memphis, Tennessee is in the South, but not the deep South. And I've stayed here every year since. And we've been touring, the family has, since 1951. This is our 63rd year
Wow.
of opening the house up to tourists.
Well, congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
It's always fun. I went to it last year and I just love hearing all the different stories. And
Well, it's nice to see these girls and how they overcame Reconstruction. It's a pretty amazing story. The house is still in the family, where many of the houses, probably in the late, middle 1970s and 80s, when the older people of these houses were dying out and the children were living elsewhere and didn't have big rooms for putting some of these big pieces. And so it's real unusual. They say that less than 1/4 of all, 1%, 1/4 of all, 1% of all the houses in America are still in the family.
wow. Well, it's amazing.
Probably less than that.
It's amazing to know that you know the story because it's your family and it's your home. It's your home family, or yeah.
It is, and that makes it fun. But all the homes are unique. They have great stories. Sometimes you'll find one with some original pieces. But the people that have decorated these homes, they've been very careful in putting in the American classical, what used to be called empire furniture. We call it American classical, to the Victorian, middle, late Victorian. So they've been very clever in decorating these homes tastefully in the manner in which they would have been decorated. So all these homes are just lovely. And we're glad that people come each year to our spring and garden pilgrimage.
Well, thank you, Captain Sid,
Thank you
for
very much.
sharing all that with
Thank you
me.
very much. And y'all come back and visit us.